I also have reviews of things.
That's right, you do.
I played through the single player campaign for Star Wars Battlefront II.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
You didn't buy it. You
No, I got
right?
it through GameFly.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
I gotta say that game is getting a lot of hate for its business practices, and there's also a lot of people that are allowing that to affect their opinion of the game
Actual
itself.
game itself.
Right.
Okay.
The game is really good. It feels really good. It's DICE. They make great shooters. It's a great shooter. The story is super intriguing. It's got, it's a new character.
I honestly didn't know there was an actual story.
Yeah,
to this. I thought it was just Battlefront.
Right.
Shooter.
That's there,
it.
but there's also a single player campaign. Cool. The single player campaign is so fucking disjointed, man. Like, when you're playing as the new character that they've created for this game, who's a stormtrooper that ends up switching sides because of guess it's Star Wars. Guess what? Daddy issues. So, but it's a strong female lead character, which I think is awesome. Who's portrayed as badass, and also you get some sympathy for because of what's happening. I don't know if I should get. I mean, the game's been out for a month or two. I don't know if I should talk about spoilers to the story or whatever, but
little ones, I guess, would be fine.
So when I heard people talk about this story, it was.
You want to throw spoilers up or?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna jump.
Okay.
Spoilers in. So when this gets turned off, you will not be talking about spoilers anymore.
Right. Okay, so I heard people talk about this story, and there was two ways. It was never. Oh, it was all right. Like, it was either, I really enjoyed the story, or the story fucking sucks. It's too predictable. It's too this. It's too that. It's too Star Wars. I'm like,
too Star Wars.
Okay, so check it out. You are a commander. You are a commander. You're a commander in for a stormtrooper army. Your dad is the head guy. Okay. So you are what the story that this tells, similar to like Uncharted Lost Legacy almost, where the whole point, the bad guy in that movie, or in that game was trying to bring the country together through tragedy.
Got it. Okay.
And similar to that, in this game, in Star Wars Battlefront II, the story is we need to bring the Empire back together because this takes place after Episode 6, before The Force Awakens.
Oh, The Force Awakens. Okay.
So before Force Awakens, but after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So it's the Empire's in fucking shambles. They're trying to bring the Empire back together, but the way they're doing it is they're going to blow up planets within the Empire, like Empire sympathizers. And one of the planets that they're going to blow up is your home planet. And she's like, "We can't do this. That's our home." And the dad's like, "No, it's the only way to bring the Empire back together is through this." And so she says, "Fuck that," and switches sides and goes and tells the rebels, "Hey, they're gonna fucking do this. We need to stop the Empire." So she switches sides. And when I heard people talking about it, they're like, "She just switches sides for no reason," and blah blah blah. There's no storytelling
like
mechanism.
A pretty damn good reason.
And it's like, is it? Yes, it's very Star Wars. 1, daddy issues. 2, her home planet is destroyed. 3, she switches. Like, yes.
Did she lose a limb?
No. Actually, no. But there's also a really awesome B story between her and her direct underling in the army. He switches with her. He leaves with her. And over the course of this story, they don't beat you over the head with the love story stuff, but through the course of the story, they get closer and closer together. You can see it, but they don't beat you over the head with it. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh no, this sounds like it's going to be terrible. Everybody says there's no reason for the switching sides and they just do it to do it. And then I'm playing the game and I'm like, these people obviously weren't paying attention to the story when they played through the game because it's all there. The only reason I say that it's so disjointed is because you play about 3 missions and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you get to play as Luke Skywalker. And it's a first-person shooter, but when you're Luke, you have a lightsaber, so that doesn't work in first person. So they pull out the third person, and they force a third-person perspective when you are the heroes because they paid for the likenesses. So they force you to play, but then you don't even see their face. You see them from behind the whole time. It completely, we talked about this on the way over here, it completely pulled me out of the story. A story I was really enjoying. It's like, hey, you get to play as Luke. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And then you get back and you're playing as Iden, and it's really, really cool. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're Han Solo. And then it's like, oh, then you're back to her. And then, hey, you get to walk around as Lando. It's pretty fun. Like, there's a really awesome story here that's completely blown apart by these out of place sections where they want to use these likenesses. And the voice actors they got to play Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia, and Lando, the voice actors are fucking terrible because it's not the actual people. There's spoilers, obviously the tag is still up. At the end, Kylo Ren comes in because the end of the story
that makes sense,
takes place decades later. So then Kylo Ren comes in, and the voice actor that they got to try and be Adam Driver is fucking terrible, man. It's really, really bad. So anytime you see the characters you know from Star Wars, it's really bad. But when they're focused on telling this story, it's really good. At first, there was a lot of in-space battles where you're using a fucking TIE fighter or an X-Wing, and you're flying around and blasting shit. And I didn't like it at first because it felt so weird because the flying controls are completely fucked. When you pull down, you should go up in an airplane, and when you push up, you should go down. They don't change that. They keep it, when you pull down, you go down. When you push up, you go up, which is completely wrong. And I had searched, unless I just missed it because I'm an idiot, I searched the control options for like 20 minutes trying to find, I need to invert my flight controls because that's the right way to do it.
Right.
But it felt bad until I realized, oh, I have to push down to go down and up to go up, and not the way it's supposed to be. So I eventually came around on that and really enjoyed the in-air space fight sequences because there's some really awesome dogfights and big space battles that go on in this game. I would suggest that people rent it, but the story is really cool. I really enjoyed the new character, and I like Janina Gavankar a lot to begin with, and she is awesome as this character. And I really, really like the story. If it wasn't completely destroyed by breaking it up so you can play as the people you know from the movies, it would be so much better. If they would just take those out, because they really have no bearing. The one as Luke is the only one that has any bearing on the story whatsoever. And that one feels the worst. Because at least when you're the other characters, you're shooting blasters, just third person. But when you're Luke, you're walking around using your shooting controls to swing a lightsaber, and it feels like garbage. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the story. If you can pick it up for like $20 or super cheap, I would say pick it up. Just for the single player alone. They added a second...
Sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, they added a second single player campaign piece. I don't know how long that is. But I didn't play that because I wanted to play what the game shipped with. So I did that. And I didn't play any of the online because I wasn't coming to it for online or anything like that. All I did was play the single player story. And I really enjoyed the story they were trying to tell me. I just wish they wouldn't have fucked it up by forcing me to play as Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Lando Calrissian.
No more spoilers?
No more spoilers.
Okay.
But I would recommend it, man. If you like Star Wars and you want to see a different... It's so funny that when Disney bought the IP, when they bought Lucas and they bought all that shit,
right,
they were like, none of that fan fiction shit is part of the canon anymore. And everybody's like, how can you do that? People love these books. People love these stories. And they did it so they could create their own side story fiction with new characters. And so far, I think they've done a good job. I know Battlefront II is getting a lot of hate and I understand why people don't like the business practices behind that game, but you can't say the game is not good, because the game is very good, with the exception of the lightsaber combat. That is a very small part of that game, but it's a very good story, and it's a DICE first person shooter. It handles so good, it feels so good. They are, to me, DICE is second only to Bungie when it comes to shooting and mechanics and how it feels. If Bungie wasn't a thing, if Halo was never a thing and Destiny wasn't a thing, DICE would be king shit when it comes to first person shooters. I know a lot of people think it's Infinity Ward, old Infinity Ward and the Call of Duty stuff, but no, it's DICE, and it's their Battlefield 1 and 2 and 3, and now the Star Wars Battlefront games. Like, they do shooting better than almost anybody in the space, with the exception of Bungie.
Well, did DICE used to be Infinity Ward, or
no? They
just
no.
people that used to work
Yeah, they were offshoots at one point, because they used to, it's funny, like Infinity Ward, which is now the guys from Infinity Ward now are part of Respawn. They started Respawn, which do the Titanfall games. And they're also doing a Star Wars game now, which they announced earlier this year that they're working on a game in the Star Wars world, which I think is cool. It's going to be awesome. It's going to feel great. But yeah, I think that DICE really knows how to do first-person shooters, and especially large-scale firefight style games, which are super fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it, to the point where I would play this game online. I would go back and play online with this game, because the pew pews sound like the pew pews from the Star Wars I like. You know what I mean? Like it hits a very weird nostalgic side of me that, again, I've always said, like, I don't hate Star Wars. I'm just not as big of a fan as a lot of people I know. But it hits a nerve center in the back of my brain when I hear the blasters go off, and it's like, oh yeah, that feels good to hear that noise.
That's pretty cool.
So, I would recommend you going to Redbox and picking it up and playing through the single player, because I think you would really like that story, that the campaign and the story.
And the story sounds really good.
Yeah, surprise daddy issues. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with that game, and would consider renting it or picking it up on the cheap to play online, and maybe go through that story again and play the extra.
How long was the story? Average.
Everybody was complaining about it, saying like, "Oh, well, you can beat it in 2 hours," and I was like, "No, it's like a good 6 to 8 hours story, just like any first-person shooter campaign." And it's so funny, because everybody knocked that game for it's too short, it's too short, it's too short. It feels so tacked on, it's too short. And I was like, oh man. And then I played it. I was like, oh, I'll probably beat this in one sitting. But then I had to stop and come back the next day and play it and finish it. So I wasn't able to sit down and do it in one sitting. You know what I did basically in one sitting? Uncharted Lost Legacy, which is not a knock on the game, and not a knock at all. But everybody was like, yeah, it's like 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12-hour game, just like the first Uncharted. It's like the perfect length. And I was like, cool, it's gonna be sink my teeth into this. I basically finished 80% of the game the first time I sat down and played it, because I didn't realize how far I'd gone. I beat that game in under 5 hours, like, or 5.5 hours or something like that. Uncharted. Everybody overestimated the length of Lost Legacy and is underestimating the length of Battlefront.
That's
because
funny.
they want to add on to the things to not like about Battlefront. But for me, I've gotten past the point of hour count in video game. I don't like that all of a sudden everybody's like, I need something I can consume now. I don't like that, because I like when games tell me a long story that's a good long story. Not an artificially padded out story. Like a long story that's very good and well told. I dig that stuff. I don't like when a game is too short for the sake of being, well, we just wanted to give a short single player campaign because everybody says they want a single player. I like it if it's short and, quote, like movie length, movie style, that's fine. But it's got to have some meat to it. So I've gotten past the point of complaining about hour counts in video games, and I think that flipped for me about 3 or 4 years ago, because for the longest time I would sit here and talk shit about Battlefield, the military shooter,
right,
and Call of Duty, because their single player campaigns were so
short.
Yeah,
those are short.
But honestly, they're all well told and well done and have awesome set pieces. And when I go back and play those games or play the newer games in those franchises, I realize I was kind of an asshole for complaining about the hour count of this single player story. If I would have just shut up and let
Just
myself
enjoyed it.
enjoy it, I probably would have liked it a lot more. I'm not saying that you should go out and spend $60 for a game you can beat in 90 minutes. That's bullshit. Do what I do and rent them. But I'm way past the point of complaining about hour counts in video games. Just because a game is 100 hours long doesn't make it better than a game that's 6 hours long. In my mind anymore.
Yeah.
I used to be that way. When I had a lot of spare time, I used to be that way. But I'm not. I've completely flipped on that to where now I'm not saying that I want shorter games because I don't. I just want stories to be told well, whether the game is long or short.
That's how I always felt. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care how long it is, as long as you tell me a good story.
Yeah.
And
I think
otherwise I enjoyed it. Yeah, 'cause for the most part, like, I've never was like a stickler on, like, oh, this was too short, or, you know, this was too long.
yeah.
You know, I just want a good story told to me.
Yeah. I think I
And
flipped
usually
on
get
that
it.
around when Journey came out and when Flower came out. Because those
Oh,
games are
yeah,
super
yeah.
short, but they're worth every fucking penny, you know?
God, Flower was fun to play.
So I think that's where my mindset started to change. Then there's games like Gone Home that I beat in like 90 minutes, but it is a fucking fantastic
I
video
was
game.
just talking about Gone Home with my brother-in-law, and I convinced him to get it.
Yeah.
Because it was also on sale for Steam for like $2.99.
Yeah.
I told him, like, you have to get it because he likes those type of games like
Yeah.
Myst and whatever, where you kind of explore the area.
Yeah.
So I told him about that. So hopefully he got it.
Cool.
Next time I see him, I'll ask him what he thought.
So on the flip side of Star Wars Battlefront, I know I've talked about this game a little bit, but this is a game that I've spent 40 hours in and finally completely finished. I'm pretty close to getting the platinum, and I'm going to go back and do it. But Need for Speed Payback has gotten a complete bum rap. Completely bum rap. Yes, it is like a B-movie story plot. I explained the story to you guys when I was
talked
on.
about it, yeah.
But I finished the story, and I finished all the single player stuff except like all the missions. But there's like, I keep going back to it, even when I'm playing a really amazing fucking game, like Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. When I'm playing that, and I love that game. That game is. We're gonna talk about that game in a minute. I love that game. But the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I still have jumps to do and drift zones to do. I want a platinum Need for Speed. I want a platinum Need for Speed. So it's always in the back of my head that I want to get back to Need for Speed Payback, which to me is the best thing you can say about a driving game. I've said it about Burnout Paradise. I've said it about Need for Speed Most Wanted, the one that Criterion did.
Right.
Like things that keep you coming back. And there was the one thing that really bummed me out about the Need for Speed game that came out in 2015. Once you were done with the story, there was nothing else to do. And it bummed me out because I really liked being in that world. I really liked driving those cars in that fake city they built. And I actually enjoyed the characters, as B-movie as they were. I enjoyed the characters in Need for Speed from 2015. But there was just nothing else to do. And I kept the game because they're like, hey, we're gonna take a year off and we're gonna make the next game. So I was like, oh man, maybe that means they're gonna come out with DLC for Need for Speed. But they never did. And it bummed me out because I had a game sitting there for almost 2 years just wanting to put it back in my console, but no reason to do it. Need for Speed Payback is... They took the groundwork from the last game they built, which I thought was a fun driving game. The cars handled really well. They added new things to it. It's different driving disciplines. There's street racing, there's off-road racing, there's drifting, there's awesome rallycross events they're calling speed cross. So it's dirt track, tarmac, but cool jumps, and it's basically what rallycross in the X Games is now, where it's like half of the track is on streets and half of the track is in dirt, and there's cool ass jumps and fucking fireworks going off, and it's really fun. And that was an add-on that they came out with that I bought because I wanted a reason to go back into the world. But aside from those missions and races, they have events all around, activities all around the map you can do. There's speed trap cameras, so you have to go a certain speed through the camera and you get 1 to 3 stars. There's drift zones where you have to get 40,000 drift points on this windy road. There's awesome things called speed runs where it's a section of the road that you have to keep a high enough average speed. So like you have to have an average speed of 140 miles an hour through these 10 gates that stretch like a quarter of the map. And there's a lot of those things. There's like There's 140 speed trap cameras. There's like 140 jumps. There's 140 drift zones. Like there's a lot of shit to do, and I have to do all of those to platinum it. I don't have to get 3 stars, but I have to do every activity. And I sit there and I go, I really should be playing Hellblade right now, and I really should be playing Evil Within 2 right now. I should really be playing this right now. But you know what? I want to go hit some jumps. I want to go drive these. I want to go drift around this corner. Like. Everybody who's trash talking Need for Speed Payback, I think, is completely misguided as to what they want out of a modern driving game. Driving games are starting to become like they are getting phased out, similarly to the way kart racers got phased out. Games like Jet Moto. Like where if I see a game like Jet Moto now, with the exception of Mario Kart, because it's a completely different beast, there's no way I'm paying full price for a fucking kart racer anymore, unless it's Mario Kart, because it's a different beast all on its own.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was like this awesome game that was came out on PS3, and I can't remember what it was called, but your airplanes, and it's essentially a race. It's a racing game, whether it's point to point or lap races, but you're in airplanes and flying around these cool little maps, and they're short races. But they tried to sell that game for like $30. I'm like, no fucking way. I'm not paying $30 for a game that I wouldn't have paid full price for on an N64, because that's what it felt like. It felt like an N64 era game, and I think driving games are starting to fall into that category where people don't want to just play a driving game anymore, unless it's a Forza game or a Gran Turismo or a big driving game. Game and it sucks because they're always talking about we need something to sink our teeth into with driving games. We need stories. We need this. We need that. But every time anybody tries to put a story mode into a driving game, it gets shit on. I'm sorry, you're not gonna tell some fucking earth-shattering awesome story in a driving game because the mechanics boil down to you getting in a car and winning a race. So it's going to end up being a Fast and Furious knockoff style story, which I have no problem with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Need for Speed Payback is a lot better than anybody's giving it credit for. It's like $30 right now. It's literally half price everywhere right now, whether it's digital or physical. And if you like arcade racers and you like fucking schlocky B-movie stories like Fast and Furious, and I'm not even talking about the modern ones. I'm talking about like Fast and Furious and Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift, which are movies that I genuinely, unironically love. I don't think they're great pieces of cinema, but I love those movies. If you like things like that, Need for Speed Payback is totally for you, because the cars handle great. I got to a point where I know everybody was complaining about the grinding aspect, like, oh, fucking loot boxes, EA, fuck off. Like, I got to one point where I felt like I needed to go back and redo races to build up my car once. I never felt the need to purchase loot boxes to get speed cards. I never felt the need to go to the in-game speed shops and buy speed cards with the in-game currency. I only felt that once. And then the only reason I ended up doing it was to get a trophy. So you don't have to engage with that. If you don't want to grind, you can use your in-game currency to go to auto shops and buy parts to put on your car. If you don't want to do that, you can grind races that are really fun to do over and over again. And if you don't want to do that, yes, you can buy them with real money. But I never felt the need to do any of that shit, like with the exception of once, because I think the drag racing aspect of the game was an afterthought, because there wasn't a lot of races, and you have to do drag events twice. So the first time it's like, okay, you level up your car and you get it to like, so there's a scale of all the way up to 399 performance points. And when you level up the car at the end of the first series of drag races, you get to about 180, which is not super high, but you get through and you win without a problem. You don't have to grind or anything. But then when the drag races come back around, you need a car that's in the 300s. And that was and I really feel like the drag racing stuff was an afterthought, because that was the only time I ever felt like I had to go back and grind to build up the car so I could do these events. And again, it didn't bother me because the game is actually fun. The driving is actually fun. So I think it's getting a bum rap, and I think that if you like arcade racers and you miss something like Burnout, Bryce, if you miss Burnout like I do, you should get Need for Speed Payback.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because there's just all these cool-ass events. There's jumps. Like, you can't do barrel rolls or flat spins. I know that's a bummer. But you can jump for 300 yards off of this big ass jump into a fucking rock pit. Like, it's amazing. It's fun. It's definitely a game that's a lot higher on my list than I thought it was going to be.
That's funny.
And I'm glad I ended up buying it instead of just renting it. Because I was just going to rent it and play it and send it back. But I ended up buying it because it was on sale over like Cyber Monday or Black Friday weekend. It was on sale digitally for like $32. And I was like, there's no way I can pass this up. The game's only been out a week and it's basically half price. But yeah, Need for Speed Payback is completely worth the money. Whatever price you get it at. And it's super cheap right now. So. On to Hellblade, Senua Sacrifice. Yeah. This is a game I'm not going to talk about any story aspects of it because I think people need to experience this. I don't even want to throw spoilers up there. I want people to experience this game the same way I did.
I don't even know what it's about.
It is a fucking amazingly well done story. It is the perfect hybrid between a game like Gone Home, like a walking simulator like Gone Home. Simulator.
Really?
It's the perfect balance of that and like a quote unquote actual video game because there's combat sequences in it. There's a lot of exploration and finding stuff. Bryce, this game's right up your alley. It's all exploring. The puzzles aren't hard, but it's got cool puzzles and it's all exploration. And then there's a combat element also that is fun to do because Ninja Theory makes great combat. And for anybody
What kind of
doesn't
combat
know,
is it, like turn-based or?
It's real time.
Real-time.
Real-time action combat. And for people who don't know, Ninja Theory made Hellblade Senua Sacrifice. They are also the same company that made Heavenly Sword, Enslaved, Odyssey to the West, the last Devil May Cry game, DMC. They make awesome combat. And so it was really... And they tell awesome movie-style stories in their video games. So for me, this was like the perfect marriage of the two styles of game they make. There's an amazingly well-acted, well-told story. It's fucking fantastic. And it's got combat in it. But it's not too much combat. It's just enough. But yeah, I don't want to say much more other than...
Interesting.
It is, when you play the game, put headphones on. It is a game that is infinitely better with a surround sound setup or headphones. This, like I said, I don't want to get into the story, but the story is fucking fantastic. And
It's like one of those things where just go play it.
Yeah, just go play it.
It's like just go watch The Big Sick.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it, man. Because Hellblade is one of the best video game experiences I've ever had. Period. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know I'm not one for the quote walking simulator style games. Like I really enjoyed Gone Home, but any other game that like that I've tried, like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and like all these other games that are like that, I bounce off because I don't like not interacting with things. But this game is fucking fantastic. It's such a great story. I think it's not getting enough love from other places when it comes to like Game of the Year or anything like that. But it has the best sound design of any video game ever made. It's got the best motion capture and facial capture tech, because it's something that Ninja Theory is known for. It's their motion capture stuff and their their stuff like that. Their performance capture is second to none. It's better than what Naughty Dog does. It's better than what they do at Quantic Dream. It is fucking top notch.
Really?
Yep.
That's some big titles that dropped there.
You should play this game. This game is right up your fucking alley, man.
It's on everything?
No, PlayStation only.
PlayStation 4. Only.
Yep.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's only digital. There's no physical copy or anything.
Maybe I'll check it out.
And it's, I think, 30.
I don't think I'll play it in time for.
Oh no, probably not. But it'd be nice to come back to it later after you've played it. And yeah, I think it is a masterpiece in gaming, and that's not hyperbole. That's how I feel.
We'll see.
I started playing The Evil Within Part 2, and holy shit! If you would have told me at the beginning of the year, hey Mike, there's gonna be 2 survival horror games you play this year that you're gonna absolutely love, I would have said no because there's no Silent Hill game coming out. Get out of my face. But Resident Evil 7 is fucking fantastic.
I gotta play that.
Yeah, you do. And The Evil Within Part 2 is like the perfect mixture of everything I love about Silent Hill and anything I ever liked about Resident Evil games. it's like the perfect marriage of those two styles of survival horror. It's so good, man. I'm about 6 hours in, so I think I'm about halfway through it. But it is fucking amazing. I love the story so far. I love the mechanics. The combat plays like a Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 5, so it's very good combat. But I like a Silent Hill game, I feel like I should probably just run away more than I should go in combat. And then I remember, oh wait, this combat's actually good. I should probably shoot these fuckers. But yeah, Evil Within 2 is fucking great. This is not a review because I haven't finished the game yet. This is merely a check-in.
First impressions.
First impressions. It fucking floored me, man.
I've watched streamers play the first one, a streamer play the first game, and it intrigued me a lot.
Yeah.
The story intrigued me a lot, actually. I actually had no idea what I was getting into when she started playing. And then watching it, I was like, holy fuck, this is fucking scary as shit, but interesting as hell.
It's Silent Hill and Resident Evil meets The Matrix.
Yeah.
That's what this game is.
Shit, man.
It's really good. It's really good. So I didn't play the first game, so I had no idea what the story conceit was as to how you get into that world with all the shit. They're not zombies, but, you know, for lack of a better word, the undead, the zombies. So I didn't know what the story conceit was. And then when you play through the first little piece of the game, and then you encounter somebody that takes you in to get you into that world, to jack you into the Matrix essentially. And it's called Mobius. Like, the company is called Mobius, which is hilarious. It's, yeah. The girl that shows up to take you to do this has two, like, security flanking her. And I was like, who are these fucking Agent Smith looking motherfuckers? Because that's what they look like. And then they literally put you in a machine that fucking jacks you into a virtual world. And I'm like, oh shit, this is awesome. This is literally the Matrix. This is fucking rad. I like it a lot. Yeah, and the world's all fucked up and upside down and breaking apart. And like, it's an amazing game so far. And yeah, I didn't think that I was going to love this or Resident Evil 7 as much as I do. And yeah, it's been a great fucking year for video games, man. A great year for video games. And it's going to get greater before the year is up for me. So hopefully the hype doesn't kill me. Anyway, that's what I've been playing. Yeah, that's the deal with those games. And I think, and it's 4 completely different types of games, man. Like, Hellblade is a, quote, like, walking simulator, basically, with a little bit of combat. I've played a 45-hour-long racing game. I've played, so far, a little bit of The Evil Within, which is a survival horror game. And Star Wars Battlefront is a first-person shooter. That's 4 completely different styles of game. And they all hold their own in their respective genres. And in some cases, completely blow other games in their genres out of the fucking water. And, it's been an amazing year for video games, and I'm glad it's been so good. Because the knock on this generation of consoles was there's no good games coming out. It's all just rehashes and ports and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But this year was a ridiculously epic year for video games. And I to the point where this year, I've already told you and Bryce, I was like, hey, guys, I've played too many games, and there's no way I can narrow it down to 5. I'm doing a top 10 list this year, which is something I don't like to do. Because I always tell you guys, my favorite part about making these lists is having the fights and conversations with myself to whittle it down to 5. But there's just... And I don't want to sit here and be like, here's 27 honorable mentions from this year.
Right.
So I'm forcing myself to narrow it down to 10. I might maybe force myself to bring it down to 7 or 8, just so it doesn't seem like there's so many games on my list. But realistically,
I think 7's better.
I don't think it would be. I think it would be completely unfair to not put games on my list, like, and say, hey, here's some honorable mentions, because like everything is just like it's one of those years where like my list, I've always not easily, but I've always been very good at going, this was my favorite fucking game this year. This is number 2, this is number 3, this is number 4, this is number 5.
Yeah.
This year, I feel like I want to put a 1 next to every game on my list. That's how good games have been this year. Everything is a fucking number 1 for me that I've played. Not everything I played, but everything that is going to be on the list could be number one.
Shit.
In any other year, my top 5 games would be number one on a list somewhere.
You still got more games to play.
Yeah, I do. And I have to finish Evil Within because the more I play of that game, the more it starts going up the list. I'm like, oh God, I don't want to bump this game, but this is so much not, and it's a different types of games on my list. Like there's first person shooters, there's a fucking turn-based RPG, there is a walking simulator, quote unquote. There's a 40-hour long driving game that people seem to not like, but I think it's great. There's a game that I spent 45 hours in, an open world adventure that is fucking fantastic, that is completely getting overlooked this year. And the knocks on it are, well, it's good at everything it does, so it can't be the game of the year. That doesn't make any sense to me. In a year where I thought I was totally done with Uncharted, they managed to put out a game that made me feel something for characters I despised.
Yeah.
There is so many good games out this year that if you are even remotely into gaming and you have the current generation of consoles, whether it's an Xbox One or a PS4 or a PC or a Switch or hell, even 3DS had some good games this year. From, I guess, the new Metroid game that came out is fucking fantastic. Like, I haven't played that, so I don't know. I haven't played any of the Switch games, so I don't know. And it bums me out that I haven't played any of those games, but I just haven't. I don't have a Switch, so I can't play those games. And yeah,
I mean, that's why the Switch games. Like, I can talk about the Switch games. I still haven't beat the games yet, but Zelda and Odyssey, like, I got further in Odyssey, and I'm actually stuck right now at a point because I've already gone back to it 3 times and I can't fucking pass it.
You still need to get Never Stop Sneaking, which is that top-down Metal Gear game that you can literally play with one button. Like, you don't have it's a one-button game that just evokes the Metal Gear style, which I think is fucking awesome.
When we're finished, I'll bring my Switch over. It's in the living room right now, but
you haven't played Golf Story yet.
I haven't played that one.
You haven't
either.
Like, there's so many Switch games that you haven't played that I haven't played that probably should be on a top 10 list somewhere because they're fucking amazing. And I'm not just talking about the Odyssey and the Zeldas and the Mario Karts and the Splatoons. I'm talking about the small games, the indie games. Like,
it's just so much right now.
It's been a fucking year, man, for video games.
Yeah, like I just want to pass the games that I have now before I move on to anything. I don't want to start something and then I'll just be like I am with television shows with video games, and I don't want to do that.
That's what
I'd rather just concentrate on one game and pass it.
I never have an issue where, like, I don't finish games, but this year specifically, I was like, I need to finish these games. I need to play these games, and I need to finish these games. You know, and what's fucked up is, like, I didn't even play Gravity Rush 2, which came out in January, and I never played that game. But I loved the first one on the Vita. And by all rights, Gravity Rush 2 is fucking awesome. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to play that game. I didn't get a chance to play Persona 5. I didn't get a chance to play Yakuza 0. I didn't get a chance to play a whole bunch of shit that I wanted to play that realistically would probably make my top 10 list even harder to make. Because I know I would enjoy Gravity Rush. I know I would enjoy Yakuza 0. And I know I would like Persona 5. And I just didn't get a chance to play those games this year.
Yeah. I mean, I still made my list for video games.
Yeah.
Granted, I didn't, pass any of them yet. But I'm not making a rough estimate.
Yeah. Yeah. And with a lot of stuff, like with Evil Within, as long as they stick the landing, as long as they don't completely fuck the end of that game, I know it's going to end up really high on my list. And it's just funny. It's at a point now with most video games where it's like, God, this is so fucking good. Like, as long as they stick the landing, because the ending of something can really destroy it for me if it doesn't end well. It doesn't even have to be the best ending ever. It just has to end well. And yeah, as long as these games that you're playing, I'm sure, as long as Mario sticks the landing, which from by all rights, it's fucking fantastic from what I've heard.
I'm playing I'm loving it.
As long as Zelda sticks the landing, which from by all rights I heard that it's amazing, I think that game will be hard to beat.
Those are both good games right now.
Hell, man, they even made a fucking Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Rush, which is basically just a real-time strategy game that people absolutely love because it's funny.
I'm not into those games.
I'm not either. But I played a game like that already this year, South Park. I played South Park, which is a turn-based, grid-based, and that game is fucking amazing. Like, I just can't talk about games right now because everything's
amazing.
It sounds like I'm just spitting hyperbole. It just sounds like I sound like Dan Herman. Everything sounds like the greatest thing ever.
Could have just got Dan Herman on the show.
This year, there's 15 games I've played so far. And I still got about a week left, or a couple days left. There's 15 games I've played to completion so far this year that are fucking fantastic. And yeah, and I think there's going to be more before we do our end of the year list. So I'm excited. I hope 2018 is half as good for video games as it was in 2017. Because even if it's half as good, it's going to be fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to these games next year.
Yep. Detroit's coming out.
In Detroit, right?
Yeah.
That's the number one game I'm looking forward to.
God, there's a lot of games coming out. All right, we should probably wrap.
Yeah.